All right, AP Econ. Y'all should be in through Z today. I'm not here. Um, just so you know, I don't know if you can tell, but you can really see it. This side of my face is kind of droopy. Probably can't. And I'm having real bad headaches, so I need to go to the ER and make sure that it's not something because the person that hit me. So kind of scary. So yeah, not going to be here. So I'm videoing the lesson for module 7 so that we can talk about it. I tried to find some videos on equilibrium and not have to do this myself, but I really didn't find much. They're kind of all combined in there with supply and demand. So I just figured let's just go on ahead and do the PowerPoint, and then that way, did I put the wrong one? Oops, sorry, I just shared the wrong one. So let me go back. Share. I need here we go. Okay, so now we're going to do supply and demand equilibrium. So we've talked about demand, we've talked about supply, and the whole point is, like we've said, consumers, we want to get the cheapest price. Sellers, we want to buy the most expensive. We want to sell it for the most expensive. Well, how do we somehow meet in the middle and get to where the buyer's happy and the seller's happy? Okay. That whole concept there is called equilibrium. Okay, so we're going to be able to explain how these supply and demand curves determine what equilibrium price is and equilibrium quantity. We're going to talk about how changes in price can move the market back to equilibrium if there's a shortage or a surplus. So we'll talk about both of those. Then we're also going to be able to explain how equilibrium price and quantity is affected when there's a change in either supply or demand. And remember, a change in supply and demand is going to be a shift. Change in price, movement. Change in supply or demand, we're shifting those curves. And then we're going to also be able to explain how equilibrium price and quantity are effective when there's a shift in both supply and demand. Okay. And this is really kind of cool because you can ask me a question and we'll go over it. I can draw it out and tell you what's going to happen to equilibrium just by drawing it really, really quickly. So equilibrium occurs when no one could be better off if you did something different. Again, both sides are happy. And because the two lines are equal length, like if we look here, we've got people and they're trying to check out. Looks like that might be Costco. I don't know. But since both lines are the exact same length, you're just going to pick one or the other. No shopper would be better off by switching lines. But sometimes we've been in places where we're like, ooh, that line's shorter, and we go get in it. Yeah. And then sometimes you get in the shorter line and someone takes long and you ended up taking longer. It always makes me mad at the bank. But if we're not going to be better off, you're just going to pick either line. That's going to be what equilibrium is. Okay. So here's where we're going to start graphing both supply and demand on the exact same curve. And just for generality, I'm going to go demand, ooh, downward sloping, supply, upward sloping, mark it with a D and an S. Yeah. If I don't have exact numbers, I can do this because you'll see at some point, put my glasses on so I can see, you will see where these two lines intersect. That's equilibrium. Okay. This is where both the consumer and the supplier are going to be happy. So if we go back to our cotton example here that we've been using, equilibrium price, we would say, is at $1. Equilibrium quantity is going to be at 10 billion pounds of cotton because this is the one point where both sides are happy. As a consumer, I'm willing to pay $1 a pound. As a supplier, I'm willing to supply 10 billion at $1 a pound. We're both happy. Okay. And part of the perfect equilibrium is you're going to have enough, the exact same amount of people demanding cotton at $1 as the supplier is willing to supply. So the whole thing would be, ooh, if the supplier supplies 10 billion pounds, we're going to have exactly 10 billion pounds worth of cotton purchased. So there's no extra. Nobody's saying, I want more, nothing. Everybody's happy. Okay. So the corresponding price at this, we would say that $1 is equilibrium price. We would say that 10 billion pounds of cotton is equilibrium quantity. And again, the actual point is equilibrium. And notice how on the graph, and this is something you're going to have to do. These are points lost on the AP exam. You have to label equilibrium when you've got supply and demand on the same graph. We have to label that point with an E. And then you have to draw those dotted lines. You got to draw the dotted lines to what the equilibrium price is, and you got to draw the dotted line down to equilibrium quantity so that I can really easily see it's at $1 and it's at 10 billion pounds. Okay, so those dotted lines with equilibrium are huge. So equilibrium price is also known as the market clearing price, meaning that let's just say I had 10 pieces of pizza that I'm selling. If I'm at equilibrium price, I'm going to have exactly 10 pieces of pizza sold. There's not going to be a customer standing around going, you ran out of pizza. I want some. No. And I'm not going to be sitting there at the end of the day going, I got 2 extra slices here and nobody wanted them. I got 10 slices. I sell 10 slices. Everybody's happy. Okay. I had exactly 10 customers. So the equilibrium price is going to clear the market of that good or service because, again, how much we're supplying is exactly how much is going to be purchased, okay, and vice versa. Now, let's go back to our cotton, okay? We're going to draw in the supply and demand curve, and we saw this before. Equilibrium is that intersection point, and you see it. We've drawn the dot on it where they intersect. We label it with an E. So that is where it's going to tell us equilibrium price and quantity. But this graph is not enough. I want you to also go in and draw those dotted lines. This is how you want this graph to look. If I gave you the demand and supply schedule for cotton and said, I want you to draw equilibrium, you have to know I got to put the demand curve in, the supply curve, and I need to identify the equilibrium point and draw the dotted lines. Yeah, not too hard. Okay, now, when same goods are sold for different prices, let's just say it's a souvenir and tourist traps or something, buyers either lack information or the market isn't fully competitive, okay? In a competitive market, when we say it's a competitive market, all sellers receive and all buyers pay approximately the same price. This is called a market price. So if we're going somewhere like you see these snow globes, if the black one is more than the pink one, we wouldn't necessarily say that's a competitive market because one's cheaper than the other. Okay. You might choose the pink one even though you don't want it because it's cheaper. Now, here's what's interesting, okay? So we're going to have equilibrium. So here's our equilibrium. Our price is $1, okay? So let's say that all of a sudden, all the cotton suppliers say, you know what? We're not going to sell it for $1. We're going to sell it for $1.50. We want to raise the price of cotton to $1.50. Well, look at what happens. If you look here on the graph, you're going to see, let me get purple. You're going to see that supply at $1.50 is a whole lot greater than demand. Because when you raise the price, we, the consumers, are going to go, yeah, no, I don't need cotton at $1.50. I liked it at $1, not at $1.50. But at $1.50, suppliers are going to supply more. So this difference here, this is a surplus. This is what happens like when you go to Walmart or Target or any type of store with clothing or shoes. When they have that stuff on clearance, it's because they had a surplus. The manufacturer's suggested retail price is supposed to be equilibrium. It's supposed to be, may not be. If they're selling it above equilibrium, they're going to have a lot left over. At the same time, you might be going in for a pair of shoes and they're like, oh yeah, we're out. We've been out for a while. As soon as we got them in, we're out. Well, that can be an example of a shortage. So when we do the price above equilibrium, we're going to get a surplus, meaning there's a whole lot more stuff out there than we're willing to buy. Okay. Now, again, in that surplus, quantity supplied is going to be a whole lot more than demanded. Those producers are producing a whole lot more than we consumers are willing to buy. Yeah, just not. Okay. So now let's go to setting the price below equilibrium. This is going to create a shortage, and you can see it here. When you lower the price, what do we as consumers want to do? We're going to be like, oh yeah, now I want to buy it. It's cheaper. Like, I have the money. I can afford this. Maybe if it's a TV at $400, I can't afford it, but you drop it down to $200. Okay, now I make enough money for $200. So it's going to increase demand. But as the supplier, I'm going to be like, I'm only getting $200 for the TVs. Yeah, do I really want to stock a bunch of these? Say, I'm not making any money. So this is where we run into this shortage, because we, the consumers, wanted at this price, but the suppliers are not willing to have as many. Okay. So when we drop that price of cotton, as you see here, from $1 to 75 cents, yeah, we're going to get a shortage because everybody's going to be going, I want cotton. Ooh. Okay. Now, this has just been when we've just talked about, supply and demand, and we haven't done anything. What happens when something other than price causes it to shift? When it was a price change, you saw we could have a surplus or a shortage. Okay. Now, one thing I want you to always remember, let me go back to this. So let's just say the price of cotton dropped to 75 cents. One thing I want you to write down and always remember, the market is always moving back to equilibrium, always. So if we change this price from $1 to 75 cents, we're going to have a shortage now, but eventually, are we going to shift our supply? Maybe we're going to produce more, or demand is going to decrease. Somewhere one of these is going to shift, or both are going to shift to where that 75 cents will become market equilibrium. Okay. We are always moving to market equilibrium because we're going to make adjustments. Now, there are things that can shift the curves. Remember, demand, it's tribe. If it's supply, it's that I rent, that mnemonic. Okay. So here we've got cotton. Now, this one I kind of like. This is more of your generic graph. Notice we've just got the y-axis price of cotton, quantity demanded of cotton. I've labeled it just supply, demand. They actually did straight lines here. You could have done S1, D1. You could have done supply. You could have written demand. I've got equilibrium. Now notice they did E1 because we're talking about a shift. So I'm going to end up with a new equilibrium point. So there's E1. This is where I originated. And I've got the line drawn to, there's price 1 and quantity 1. Yeah, I'm not sure why it doesn't have a 1 on there. Okay, I'd probably put the 1 just because. So one of those things is going to change demand. So one of our tribe things. So when we have an increase in demand, we talked about this. How would you draw it? We're going to shift that demand curve. Now, this is what I love about this. They're not telling me how much it shifted. They're just saying it's an increase in demand. Okay. So that means my demand curve is going to shift to the right. So you can see we did that here. We shifted it to the right. Now, did we move it too much or not enough? I don't know. You didn't give me any numbers, but I don't care. Okay. Right now, we're just kind of talking theory and in general. Okay. So when that happens, you can see now, where's our new equilibrium point? Our new equilibrium point, or E2, now becomes right here. And then we're going to be able to go and, okay, here's my new price, and here's my new quantity. And so you would be able to tell me, okay, when there is an increase in demand, price is going to go up, but quantity is going to go up too. Quantity supplied and quantity demand, because at equilibrium, they're equal. Okay. So the quantity of the goods going to go up, but we're also paying more prices. Okay. So you got to think about that. That makes a lot of sense. If we're sitting here and demand is high and we really want this bottle, you can't get it. Everybody wants this bottle because it's so awesome, because it's Tennessee. But if demand is huge and all of a sudden it's the hot item, and that, taste trends, that increases demand for this, then they're going to raise the price. But suppliers are also going to supply more. Now, let's talk about this one. What happens if there's a decrease in supply? This is what I love. I draw my demand supply curve. Okay, you say it's a decrease in demand. So I'm just going to, oh, sorry, this is decrease in supply. I'm going to take that supply curve and I'm going to shift it inward. Okay, again, do I know exactly how much? No. Do I know how far to shift it? No. You can see here the curve's a little bit different. Still doesn't matter. Okay, because we don't have actual numbers. If I had actual numbers, I'd have to be precise. We're doing a generality. Okay, we're answering the question, what happens to equilibrium when there's a decrease in supply? So let's look at what happens to the equilibrium. It's really easy to see. Oops, went the wrong way. Sorry, guys. So what happens? This leads to movement along the demand curve, our new equilibrium, and it's really easy to see. Price is going to go up, but what's going to happen to quantity? It's going to fall. So we're going to be willing to pay higher prices. However, suppliers are not going to be willing to supply as much. They're going to cut production. Okay. So that's kind of interesting. And think about that through COVID. During COVID, we had supply chain issues. So supply decreased, but demand stayed the same. Like, let's just say demand for milk stayed the same or gasoline stayed the same. But we had a decrease in supply because people weren't working. What happened to prices? Could we still be having that problem right now? And this is what's causing inflation? Yeah, because we still have supply chain issues. That's still a problem. People working, not as much, but supply chain issue is still a problem right now. So this is going to cause equilibrium to quantity decrease, prices go up. Now, what if we have the supply curve and the demand curve shifting? Y'all, it's really easy to draw, and I know y'all are going to get this. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, let's look at this first screen here. We're going to draw our original. Here's S1, D1. So here's our original equilibrium. Okay, so in A, you can see what they're doing. In figure A, it looks like supply decreased, and I can tell you that because right here, supply decreased. It's an inward shift of supply, but demand did what? Increased. So demand went up, but supply went down. Okay. If I ask you, what happens? What happens to equilibrium when demand increases, but supply goes down? We can graph it. And that's what I'm going to do. Here's my demand. Here's my supply. You said demand increase, so I'm going to do a shift forward. You say supply decrease, I'm going to do a shift backward. Here is where they intersect. Here's my new equilibrium. And I can analyze it. Okay. So we are going to end up, oh, and they even said small decrease in supply, large increase in demand. So price is going to go up when this happens, but then quantity is also going to go up. So quantity demanded and supplied will go up. Okay. So that's interesting. Okay. Demand increases, supply decreases, price is going up. Okay. Now let's talk about B over here. Okay. In B, we've got, let me change color. In B, we see a decrease in supply and an increase in demand. But the difference between these two is, let's look, this was just a little decrease in supply, but a large increase in demand. Here, we have a large increase in supply and a little increase in demand. Yeah, a couple of people want more, but suppliers are like, yeah, no, I can't supply as much. Well, now look what happens to this equilibrium. Okay, price still goes up, but the big difference is right here. So when demand is increasing at a much faster rate than decrease in supply, we're going to have an increase in both price and quantity. However, when we have a huge decrease in supply and just a little increase in demand, price is still going to go up, but quantity is going to go down. Yeah, go supply less. And that's why I say drawing these is perfect, because once you draw it, it's great. And again, I don't have to be accurate on my graphs, but if you're telling me it's a small decrease in supply, okay, I'm going to move it a little. Large increase, I'm going to make sure that's at least double. I'm gonna make sure it's at least double. Yeah, double the width. Now, simultaneous shifts, and this is something, if you want to memorize it, you can memorize it. I personally do not memorize it because it's just as easy for me to pick up a sheet of paper and go, okay, I'm going to draw it. Oh, boom, move, move, move here. Oh, that's my equilibrium. That's easier for me to do. Okay. I like graphing too. So when demand goes up and supply goes up, okay, price is unknown. And the reason it says the price is going to be unknown is because how much do they increase? Okay. Price could go up, price could go down. That's what the unknown means. Okay. It's going to have a lot to do with how much supply increases and how much demand increases. Do they do the same? Because if both increase the exact same, your equilibrium price is going to stay the same. Okay. If one is greater than the other, and again, I can't remember that off the top of my head. I'd have to graph it. When supply increases a whole lot more than demand, then hold on, let me see. I'll try to graph it here. So if it does a whole lot more, I'm going to graph it out. Demand, supply. So here I've got my, where's my, why can't I get it in here? There we go. Demand, supply. So we are going to say that we have a huge increase in supply. And let's just have a little bitty increase in demand. Okay. So if you look in this example, you can see price goes down. But if I do, let me find a different color. But if I did where supply was just a little bit, but demand was a lot, and I'm sorry, this is really, really crude, price is going to go up. If they shift the exact same, price is going to stay the same. So that's what the unknown mean is. Price could go up, price could go down, price could stay the same, depending on how much each one goes up. Now, when demand falls and supply goes up, we know for a fact price is going to go down. Okay. Quantity is unknown because it's going to be the same thing. How much did it go down in demand versus how much in supply? Quantity could increase, it could decrease, or it could stay the same. Demand goes up, supply goes down. We know for a fact price is going to increase, period. Period. Quantity, we don't know. Again, it could go up, it could go down, or it could stay the same. Demand going down, okay, here's the price. The price can be any one of the three, up, down, or same. But we know for a fact quantity is going to decrease. And that's why I say memorizing all this, if you're good at it, great, go for it. I am always going to take what the problem is and I'm going to graph it. And because I can graph it and instantly look, okay, price went up, quantity went up, or price went up, quantity decreased, or you know what? It stayed the exact same. Price stayed the same, but quantity increased. Yeah. I can't give you stamps on this part. Actually, I'm going to do y'all on the honor system because I think you can do it. Somebody grab my stamp. I'm going to leave it there. And yeah, raise your hand. Whoever answers it can get the stamp. So what is the market clearing price called? Okay. If you need to pause it, equilibrium price. Okay. Where is the equilibrium price found? Okay. Equilibrium price found is going to be where those two graphs intersect. It's going to be where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. Okay. Where is the equilibrium quantity found? Okay. Look, it's the exact same answer. Equilibrium price is found where quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. And equilibrium quantity is also where demand equals supply. That where those two curves intersect, that's going to tell us the price and the quantity and supply demanded. Or quantity demanded and quantity supplied. Sorry about that, guys. So what happens when the price is above equilibrium level? And y'all, I'm even sitting here right now going, it's a shortage or a surplus. I can't remember it. I'm going to graph it. I'm going to draw in demand, supply. What? I need to take off my thing because there we go. Okay, I'm going to draw supply and demand here. Okay. And then it says if it's above, I've got equilibrium. So I'm going to draw a line above it. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line above it. And then I can see when I draw a line above it, we're willing to supply more, but people are demanding more. So that means it's going to be a surplus. So what is a surplus? Well, that's when quantity supplied exceeds quantity demanded. People are willing to produce more than people are demanding. Now, what is the result in a surplus? Okay. People are going to put stuff on sale. They're going to put stuff on sale so that then it's going to get pushed back down to an equilibrium level. That's what they do when they put things on sale or on clearance. They've got a surplus. They got too much of them. So they're going to drop that price down because when they drop that price down, demand is going to increase and we get back to equilibrium. Yeah. Now, what happens when it's below? I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to take the same graph I just did. I'm going to draw a line below equilibrium, and I can clearly see demand is greater than supply. Okay, that's a shortage. When we want more of something than is at the store, it's a shortage. Yeah, think back to COVID. Toilet paper. Yeah, we had a shortage of toilet paper. Yeah, because demand increased out the wazoo. Everybody was afraid to not have toilet paper. So demand increased, but supply didn't. We ended up with a shortage, okay? So a shortage is going to be where quantity demanded exceeds quantity supplied. And the same thing, when we have a shortage in a competitive market, the price is eventually going to be pushed back up so that we reach equilibrium. Because you think about that. If we're all wanting toilet paper so bad that we're like fighting over it and hoarding it and all that because, supply is not meeting our demand, how can they keep us from buying so much extra toilet paper? Raise the price. They raise the price, we get back to equilibrium. Yeah. Now, where does the equilibrium move when demand shifts? Okay. Again, this is where I'm going to graph this out. And so when just demand shifts, that means we're just moving up along that supply curve. Okay. We're going to move along that supply curve because supply is not changing, just demand. Okay. So it's going to move to a new curve, a new point along the supply curve. Now, when supply shifts and only supply shifts, what's it going to be? We're going to have movement along that demand curve. Yeah. I probably haven't been pausing. Y'all probably need to make sure you pause it. Okay, so we're going to move along that demand curve. Now, these are some, y'all should be able to get 2 each. So if demand alone decreases, what's going to happen to price and quantity? Again, I'm looking at my generic thing here. When demand decreases, well, that means that price is going to go down. Okay, wait, if demand alone decreases. Supply and demand decreases. I've got my equilibrium price and quantity both decrease. I need to look up that one. That one doesn't look right. Because if demand alone decreases and supply stays the same, when I'm doing my shift, I've got equilibrium prices down and quantity is down. So I think that should be a decrease there, not an increase. If supply and demand increase, what happens to price and quantity? Well, this is going to be one, again, it's going to depend on how much do each one of them increase. So we know if both increase, quantity is going to increase. We know that for a fact. But what's price going to do? I don't know. Depends on how much of a shift it is. Price could go up, price could go down, or price could stay the same. Okay. You really haven't given me that information, so I can't answer it yet. Now, if only supply decreases, okay, so now I'm drawing it out again. So if supply decreases, what happens to price? See, these are backwards. Yeah, this is backwards. I need to change these on the PowerPoint. So you will see, no, this one's actually correct. I'm sorry. This one's correct. So when only supply decreases, equilibrium price is going to go up, but the quantity is also going to decrease. And again, I just kind of graphed it out and I got it. Now, here's your free response. So it says, draw a correctly labeled graph showing the market for tomatoes in equilibrium. Label the equilibrium price PE. So that's going to be one where we're going to want to put a box around it, because that, I want you to get in the habit taking these and drawing a box around that PE, because you've got to graph that on there. Equilibrium quantity QE. And then we're going to draw a horizontal label indicating a price, P sub C, that shows a shortage of tomatoes. Okay. So here's our graph. So here we've got y-axis is price, x-axis is quantity. We drew supply, we drew demand, you labeled them. So again, we're going to label them. We'll change colors so we can see it. Now, the intersection point is equilibrium, and it said we make that an E, and we draw our dotted lines. Here's that PE that they wanted. Boom. Okay. And then we draw down here, and they said to label it as QE. Got that. And then they say, draw a horizontal line that shows a shortage. Well, a shortage, and sometimes I use common sense on this. Well, shortage is when we want more. So that's demand. We want more than there is supplied at the store. Okay. So that means it's going to fall below. I've got to have demand greater than supply. So I'm just going to draw this line right here. Could have drawn it a little bit above. I could have drawn it a lot more below. It's just got to be below equilibrium. Okay. And then we're going to label it. They want us to label the size of the shortage. So you've got to do that little, here, and then call it shortage. That's our shortage right there. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, ooh, I could rock this one. So you get 1 point for graphing the vertical axes, labeling it price or P, x-axis quantity or Q. Easy point. You've got to make sure that you've got a downward sloping demand curve that you either labeled with the word demand or D. Okay, I can do that. Upward sloping supply curve, labeled S. Okay, I can do that. Yeah. And then just sitting there and going, this is where the two lines intersect, draw my dot and put an E on it. Okay. Then I'm going to do that with the E. And then we're going to turn around, and at the E, we're going to draw that dot to the price and do P of E. And then we're going to do Q of E. So that's our equilibrium price and our equilibrium quantity. Okay. And then our next point is going to be, did you draw that straight line and label it PC below the equilibrium price? So just drawing the line is going to be 1 point, labeling it correctly as PC. But then when you turn around and you do the little, I don't even know what that's called, the little that I drew here in green. And when we do that and label it shortage, now we get another point. Yeah. And again, these graphs are going to be ones that you do, and you're just doing generalization. And sometimes we're going to say, I can't answer that what the change in price is or the change in quantity is until you give me actual numbers, because it can go up, down, or stay neutral. Okay. All right. So you have got module 7 on Achieve. See, I told you I took a blow to the head and I can't remember anything. So you've got that on Achieve, and work on that, and I will see you on Tuesday. Yes. Have a good weekend.